Welcome back to another episode of the Decision Hour. I'm your host, Adam Berg. Folks, I have a very, very special episode lined up for you today, and it's personal for me. It's personal for me. The guest joining me is someone who I have a ton of respect for, someone who I consider a longtime friend, first and foremost. I hold this woman very, very close to my heart. We served together. I've known her since like the late 90s. Yeah. yeah. I'm telling you, this is going to be a fun one too, if we can keep on track. Her story is so much bigger than just the time that we've spent in uniform. She's actually grew up on the Navajo reservation, if I remember correctly. We served together in the Army Guard. She also served some time in the Air Force Guard, I believe, if I remember. On top of that, she's an incredibly talented singer-songwriter. She's got some timeless classics, like classic country tone. At least that's how I would describe it. And if you haven't heard tracks like Kiss Kiss Bang or Pour the Wine, that's the other one, go check them out. You can find them on YouTube right now. It was fun. Listen to them. I strongly encourage you guys to go do that. But anyway, we're here today, though, because we're going to talk about, she wrote a book, and it's called Rigs Are From Mars, Nodes Are From, did I say that right? Nodes?
Yep.
Nodes are from Venus. So rigs are from Mars, nodes are from some Venus. Yeah, I've got so many questions right now. So we're going to talk about Bitcoin, but really probably not like the techie stuff when you hear Bitcoin. I think we're going to talk more about how it ties into like human behavior and like primal instincts. So without further ado, my friend, Hannah Praley. Hannah, it's great to see you.
Wonderful bird. Yes,
oh my God. Oh, I think back every time that I see like a post from you or whatnot, it always brings up a memory, and there's so many of them that are just great. I mean, I value you as a person. I appreciate you as a longtime friend, and it's never boring when we when we get a chance to talk to each other.
I don't know why people complain about social media so much. I'm like, just shit post and have fun and call it a day. Like, my rule is if it makes me laugh, it's going up. It's going up.
Yeah. She's got such a great sense of humor too.
When we were co-drivers, this was like before memes, and we just had to quote Adam Sandler at each other.
I know. There were so many times. So brief story. Those of you that are new to the show or don't know, Hannah's been on the show once or twice before, and just a quick backstory. So I mentioned that Hannah and I we served together, like, and we've known each other literally since the late 90s. I mean, you were still at NAU. Yeah. And I was her A driver. We were in a transportation unit together, and we would and it's like when we would drive together, and this was like before, like she said, memes and all this other stuff, and we would quote movies pretty much all day long, and it was just like gut wrenching, like lean over in your chair laughing so hard. Like we had so much fun together because we were just cracking jokes back and forth, and it was I just remember just how much fun we used to have. It was great memories.
That was a lot of people to make fun of too. When our some of them were Christian.
I know. And there's a bunch of them that listen to this show. I'm gonna get a text message now. Who is she talking about? Who is she talking
about? If you have to ask them,
Oh my God. Okay. I'm trying to get serious for our listeners here and viewers, because we are recording this, right? I heard it say, okay, yeah, we are. All right. Oh, geez, Hannah, listen, you've always been a storyteller with like your music, right?
Yeah.
How did you go from writing songs to writing a to, to writing a book about Bitcoin and human civilization? Like, I've known you a long time, and I love you. Help me put those puzzle pieces together. Like, how did this come about?
Writing has actually always been my first love, and songwriting was kind of derivative of that.
Okay.
But it was it's easier to bite off something and chew it and metabolize it in the form of a song. Well, meanwhile, I have been over the years able to publish some essays and stuff like that. And I did get my master's in creative writing at NAU like later on. Um, and songwriting is hard and it's fun and it's challenging in its own way, but I've actually always felt the most natural in kind of long form prose, like creative nonfiction is really what I like.
Okay.
I've been trying to write a book for a really long time, and the short form is easy. Like I said, like essays have had some success with those, but what happens with me with longer form, and this is a short book, by the way, like this is a 100-page book. It's a really quick read,
Okay.
but I I get excited about an idea, I explore it, and by the time I figured out how to say it and articulate it, I get kind of bored of it. And I move on. So I have I mean this is my first book that I've published, but I probably have like 8 books in my computer because I have this process of like outrunning my own ideas, you know? And so it takes something that's kind of big enough to hold me,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But as far as writing goes, it's like zero gravity for me. It's so fun, and I just feel like I'm flying. I feel like I can do anything when I'm writing. It's like my first language, actually.
So why Bitcoin?
Right. Okay. So I have been interested in Bitcoin for, well, since like 2018 or
Okay.
so. That's my my dad got me and my brother interested, and he was like, we didn't know much about it, and he was like,
Really?
my dad, he's like, the grid's gonna go down, the dollar's gonna collapse, you know, like basically actually everything that's happened, my dad had already called it a long time ago, and he still to this day hasn't been wrong. There's some things still outstanding, but he hasn't been wrong.
Yeah.
And my brother and I, he's like our, he's kind of like Gandalf, you know, like he's like our family mystic, and he can't really explain or articulate if you question him like why this thing is going to happen.
It's just
He's
yeah.
like, it just will. And so, yeah, back in the day, me and my brother were a little bit more like, okay, dad, like, let's get you to bed. But then, as more and more of the things that he was talking about started manifesting, kind of culminating in COVID and the whole like cooperation between all these entities globally, where we were like, oh, wow, they're actually all cooperating for an agenda and a narrative and a purpose. Yeah, my brother and I were like, we better start paying attention to
Yeah.
what dad say. Anyway, so back in the day in 2018, he was like, kids, we need to be buying Bitcoin. And we were like, all right. So we did, and we understood very little about it. And it wasn't for, I owned Bitcoin for a couple years before I even sort of developed the curiosity to start looking into the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
You know, he was like, the government doesn't control it. And I was like, okay, cool. I like that. So it becomes, Bitcoin is a really interesting thing because it's this is not my quote, this is somebody else's, but it's everything we don't understand about money plus everything we don't understand about computers. And but the number goes up, like it's up like 20 million% right now from the time of its origin in 2009.
Yeah.
You know, it's a hard asset, and if you hold it for a while, even if you have no curiosity about it whatsoever, if you just get some and hold it, which you can do on your cell phone at any time, um the literally just the value appreciation makes you, it drives a curiosity because you're like, what is happening?
Right.
Like what is happening and why is it happening, you know? And so then you start, in order to learn about Bitcoin, you have to reverse learn about the dollar and about fiat currencies. And the more you do that, the more sort of shocked and horrified you become because you're like, what the hell? Like, at first you start out saying like, how is Bitcoin money? And then you end up by saying, how is the dollar money?
Right.
Like how
Because all it does
how
is just keep printing and printing and printing and
right,
printing,
right.
and
So
it's run by a government agency or the central banking system.
the Federal Reserve, which is
Right.
neither
Yeah.
normal.
So
Yeah. And the little maneuver that we did at the end of World War II, where we sort of like rug pulled all the other countries on earth to pin their fiat. Well, everybody had sent their gold to the United States for safekeeping because of the
right.
volatility of the war. So we're custodying like 70% of the gold on earth. And we said, we'll peg it, we'll peg your thing to our thing, and we'll peg our thing to gold, and we'll set it at $35 an ounce. And then anybody we can give you that gold back, in kind, like whenever you ask for it. So then we start, military industrial complexing as hard as we can, printing more IOUs, essentially like printing all these IOUs on
Right.
everyone's future time. And so some other countries were like, I think we'd like our gold back now. And we said, oops, sorry, the gold window closed. And sucks to be you. Like it
Yeah.
was a massive, massive rug pull. So there had been other countries throughout history, including Rome, like the silver denarius. There's been all kinds of instances of, in a sort of local or regional way, manipulating a currency, because there's obviously, incentive to do that for centralized power, for governments,
Right.
fiefdoms, whatever you want to call it. And so it's happened over and over again in history, but there's always been this kind of massive global like checks and balances where when one region's currency becomes too debased, everybody jumps off onto something that isn't, and it kind of reequilibrates. So this experiment that started with Bretton Woods, right at the end of World War II, was the first time that all of the currencies on the earth were by force sort of like pegged to this one, and then that one debased. And so the currency collapse, like we are in currency collapse, like in
Right.
the dollar. It's hard for us to see that and think about it. We just call it inflation.
Right.
And the inflation numbers are very, very manipulated. But the currency collapse that we see, in Argentina or in Mexico with the peso, or just Zimbabwe, like all over, that's just an accelerated example of what's happening with ours. So then you start learning all this stuff, and you're like, whoa, this is awful. And it distorts human incentive, and it distorts how we spend our time and what we do with our lives. But still, for me, the more I learned, that was still kind of over in its own like money compartment, and
Right.
then the rest of my life was over here, the other things that concern me or that I spend my time on. But the what happened over time is that the interesting physics of Bitcoin, which is a literal way of like re backing uh, a store of value to energy expenditure in a literal way through the process of mining Bitcoin, which is very, very energy intensive.
Right.
Um, and every kind of currency, and including gold, has been some kind of symbol for the expenditure of energy. And these symbols get more and more abstracted, that Bitcoin actually reharnesses direct raw energy expenditure to the asset itself. So then you start to, it becomes like a first principles thing, where it's hard not to start seeing other things, like strength training, like working out,
Right.
um, like relationships. Like it becomes hard not to start seeing other things through that same sort of vocabulary or lens, because it offers such a great vocabulary for everything that we do here, which is like we have time and energy, and we're trying to spend it the best way to create durable structure that will compound over time. And we're trying to do that in every area of our lives, in relationships, in marriage, in the gym, So, uh, like coming all the way back around, I wasn't trying to write a Bitcoin book. I've been trying to write a different book, and these ideas just kept creeping in and creeping in, because they represented just the best way to say what I was trying to say anyway.
Yeah.
And finally I was like, Jesus Christ, I better just write a Bitcoin book. like like it was like I was trying to write this and this kept happening, so I was like, okay, let me just do that then, and kind of get that out of my system, or whatever's going to happen, like let me just have this.
So most people see Bitcoin as just like a code, and I'll be honest with you, like I've seen it, and I'm just like I don't understand. I don't understand the digital currency side of things, and I mean, you know me. Some things haven't changed. My attention span is like a 5-year-old, so it's like squirrel. Um, but I've always seen it, and it was just like it's fascinating to me. And I've always wondered, like, okay, this is going to be like our next currency. This is because we're going through you know, people often say, oh, we're evolving or what have you. And without going down too many rabbit holes or get into the whole conspiracy stuff, because I'll spend all day on that stuff. Why do you see this as a whole new language for humans, or for how humans relate to like building civilizations?
I think that being on the cusp of porting a lot of our lives over into cyberspace is a big part of it because before the internet, um, everything was analog. So Bitcoin has been called digital gold by lots of people, but it's starting to be where we call gold analog Bitcoin because we've had, you know, we've had the industrial revolution, we've had the information revolution, like all throughout history, like as our technology changes, we reorganize our whole civilization around that. But so far, every single thing we've been living in the analog world,
Right.
which requires centralized power structures, which trend tyrannical and all the things that happen. Um, and already, so now we live a lot of our lives in cyberspace, as it were, and the necessity for some kind of hard constraint, like the necessity for some kind of physics, some kind of gravity, some kind of actual leash on the proliferation of like AI, for instance, and just the proliferation of digital slop that because cyberspace is like a frictionless environment
Right.
where anything can be created and iterated, you know, in any quantity. And so it's um Bitcoin makes the least sense when you think about purely an analog world. That's where that kind of like I can't hold it and I can't bite it kind of feeling comes
Right.
in. Bite gold, right?
Right.
Like we're reorganizing our entire civilization around cyberspace, just like we've reorganized around each other technological revolution. And unless the internet goes off everywhere forever, this is going to be this is going to represent the new theater of combat. This is going to represent the new opportunity. This is going to represent the new place that we meet people and interact and have our social lives. And we already do all that, you
So
know?
so is Bitcoin making, like the way that Bitcoin works and the way that money works today? Is the way that money works today, is it making us, has it made us weak or soft? And is Bitcoin kind of like the tool that's going to bring everybody kind of back together again?
Well, it definitely distorts us. There's a guy you should definitely look into. I think he's now a major in the Air Force, Jason Lowery. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so he wrote a book called Soft War,
Hmm.
and I think that should be your going in book, actually. I mean, I would love for you to read mine as well, but I think Jason Lowery's Soft War, he discusses Bitcoin in terms of national security, in terms of First Amendment
Hmm.
principles, in terms of Second Amendment principles, free speech, you know, right to bear arms, because it's Bitcoin is essentially the ability to project force, real force in cyberspace. So we call it money, like we call it an asset and a commodity and money and a store of value, and it is. But that's kind of like in the 90s saying the internet is for checking your email. Like it's turned out to be about a whole bunch of other things.
Right.
A little premature to say Bitcoin is just money or an investment. And Jason Lowery is definitely on the leading edge of like pushing that envelope. And he's in a position advising the Trump administration right now on how to, you know, kind of think this through because other countries are thinking it through. China's thinking it through. Russia's thinking it through. We've seen what happened with the Strait of Hormuz, you know, with accepting Bitcoin. And it's it's one anecdote that Jason Lowery likes to lead with when he gives talks and stuff like that is that when flight was first discovered, there's a military general, and I forget his name, who famously commented, "Okay, that's cool, but I don't really see how that's relevant or applicable to the military flight." So that's right. That's crazy in hindsight, but that's where we're at with Bitcoin, because it's essentially like the ability to project force in cyberspace. So back to your question, have we become soft? um it's distorting, like we
Fair.
okay,
Yeah.
put it this way. So we're creatures of our incentive environment, just like animals. Just like imagine a pack of wolves traveling around, and the weather is what it is, and the prey is what it is, and where's water, and they got to figure it out. Like that's their incentive field.
Okay.
So we're really no different, but we ported our incentive field over into finances. So that's the field that we're responding to, and it directs all of our behaviors because it has to. So yeah, when we have energy, from the sun, right? We have we discovered fire, so that made civilization possible.
Right.
So then we experiment with like little tribes and bands, and we have to, we barter, like I'll give you this and you give me that. And over time, all around, there's been lots of different things that humans have used for money because we needed some kind of abstraction, because barter sucks sometimes. So we're like, okay, how about seashells? How about beads? There's Robert Breedlove is really great talking about the 5 characteristics of money. And so money is anything that essentially is the best thing available to people that meets those 5 characteristics. That's portability, divisibility, interchangeability, recognizability, and durability. Like, so anything that we'll
Okay.
switch immediately if
Right.
we're using something as money, we're using the leaves on the trees as money, and then we find something that's better, then we'll switch because we're storing our value, we're storing our effort. So as that's allowed us to form like economies. And then gold was a big deal, and it was a big deal for a long time, and it still is a big deal
Right.
because that was kind of the ultimate way. It takes a lot of energy to get gold out of the earth, and that was the kind of ultimate recognizable thing that we could use, gold and silver. So that, like, if we put all of this on timeline, let's say the entire, we've been recognizable human beings like in our current form for like 300,000 years or so. We've been around for longer than that, but we've been like this for like 300,000 years. So let's take that 300,000 years and let's superimpose it onto like a January to December calendar, like a 1 year timeline.
Mm.
So we started having money in like late December of that year. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Like money
Yeah.
at all.
Right.
And that means that for the previous 11.9 months, we're hardwired, and in our lizard brain, our freaking medulla oblongata, like everything that we understand about being human is organized to respond to incentives that were true for us for a long time.
Right.
So then we get money late in the year in whatever form, like reasonably sound currency. And then with Bretton Woods in the 1940s, we ridiculously abstracted gold essentially into like an imaginary proliferating garbage currency that we're trying to respond to that, and it's global. We're trying to respond to that as if that's our incentive field, and it's very unnatural for us because we have 300,000 years and more
Yeah.
of genetic history of that not being our incentive field,
Right.
of needing to actually convert energy to durable order, which we were able to do. So fiat currency is like, I'm going to build a house today. That way I have a house to live in. And it's like, tomorrow, build the house too. The next day, build the house too. You can't ever start building
Right.
because currency is collapsing. So it makes us frenetic. Uh, I mean, weak might be one way to put it, but it disorganizes us.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So on that time, on that year timeline, like it wasn't until like basically 11:59 at night on December 31st that we
It was like
absolutely fucked
boom.
our currency
Yeah.
and like had the final abstraction of disentangling it from gold and unbacking it entirely. But here's the crazy thing, Bird. Like all of the social sciences and discussions of human nature and economics and philosophy have pretty much originated within that time frame of living in this bubble of like fake currency. And so it's kind of like all of our observations about human nature and how we are and how men are and how women are and all of this come from are created within a period of time when we're all kind of deranged by a broken incentive field. That'd be like if you took a pack of wolves and put them in a super unnatural for them environment and then did a bunch of studies about, oh, this is how wolves are,
Yeah.
you know? And that's why you see so
Yeah.
many sort of movements back towards traditional living, traditional eating, primal workouts, primal diets, like the trad
Going back
lifestyle.
to the old ways is that's what I call it. Going back to the old ways.
Because
And
we get that something about that works, something about right now is broken, but we have this movement into cyberspace that we're just going to have to do regardless. And like the trad lifestyle thing, for instance, after World War II, getting all the women into the workforce and like it's temporary, help out the guys. And they're like, oh, surprise, it's permanent actually because we wrote so many IOUs that we have to permanently expand the tax base,
right.
right? So like it's 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 not most people can't even afford to just go back to like a trad lifestyle because you have to have so much freaking money to
Oh,
do that.
it's ridiculous. I've looked at land
Yeah.
out here, and
Yeah.
it was like land prices depending on where you are. But it's gotten expensive down in Arizona. It's out here. You know, there's a couple of places around the country that's like, oh, land could do that, and then you get out there and you're like, there's nothing out here. There's no resources, no water, no this, no that. So it's kind of like, what do you do? And I've wanted for a long time. I've wanted to go back off grid where it's like, yeah, we're moving in we're in the technological space now, and it would be hard for me to go completely offline because all of my companies that I run are like online companies. But I want to get to a point where it's like be more self sufficient. And the problem, it sounds great in theory, but doing it like you almost nowadays you need a miracle. Like, okay, win the lottery or work until you're 80, and by the time you're able to maybe afford the land that you've wanted for the last 50 years, you're not going to have any time to enjoy it. And then I look at the technical side of it is like we're so wrapped up on being online and this virtual reality stuff, and I'm just like, oh my god, are we gonna wake up in the morning and like, okay, have a good day in the virtual space, and you put goggles on and then you lay there for 8 hours and you're walking around in some virtual world or some weird thing like that. Anyway, I digress. I'll get off my soapbox here, but
That is the point, is like we're stacking abstractions on top of abstractions on top of abstractions to the point that it's a freaking leaning tower of Pisa of abstractions.
yeah,
That's why Bitcoin is so refreshing, because it's like, oh, that's harnessed to energy, that's primal,
right,
that's that's
yeah.
ancient.
Is it? I've said as we move forward, one of the things that I try to focus on, even in the technical space that we're in, is you can't lose the human interaction side of things.
Mm-mm.
Like
No,
you,
we totally freak out without that. We're not designed to not have that.
yeah, I because you see these people are like, I'm gonna spend 12 hours in a dark room and in the virtual space and blah 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 blah. Like you need human interaction, otherwise, you're not gonna. My opinion is I don't think you'll last, but
Well, yeah, now everybody's falling in love with their AI chatbot and getting
oh,
married,
oh
stuff like
Jesus
that.
God,
Uh-huh.
don't get me started on that. I want to go. I want to go back to the title of your book.
What a pain in the ass, right? I tried to not make it.
Go on.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay. A little bit of backstory. So I think I first, okay, obviously Men Are from Mars, Women from Venus was a book that got really popular around the time that I was in college,
Yeah.
probably around the time when we're palling around. And I never read it and reject the college environment isn't, it's basically like an incubator of feminism, right? And so that, which is the gateway drug of every other victim narrative. And I never have considered myself a feminist, but I guess just in some reflexive way, I was like, oh, that's like a husband hunting manual or whatever, right? And so it wasn't until years later, I've done so much commercial driving. I've gotten most of my Bitcoin education and my education about a lot of stuff because of just driving commercially so much. And I just listen to podcasts and,
Right.
I learn things. So somehow, like my algorithm circled me back around to that guy. And by that time, I'd been married, I'd been divorced, I've been through like all kinds of garbage in my personal life. And I was like, oh, holy shit. Like he totally called it. And it would have been really, really helpful for me, because the other sort of narrative that especially proliferates on college campuses and with feminism is this sort of sameness of men and women, and you just don't develop a vocabulary for the contrasting perspective because you're that's school and you go there and those are the ideas that you're exposed to, and that like we're kind of different but we're not really that different, like any two women might be more different from each other than a given woman and a man, like this kind of thing, this sort of like homogenization. And
Right. Right.
all we're all supposed to kind of like grow up and get jobs and like work, and we have some other stuff that comes online about sex and babies, but not, it's like we don't really focus on that, that's regressive. And just the this guy's unpacking of how radically different we are was so refreshing to me because it confirmed everything that I'd actually ever experienced. I think men and women have very, very, very little in common because nature doesn't overlap function. Like that would be redundant and unnecessary,
Yeah.
like why would nature do that? So it's like men hold down all of this real estate over here, women hold down all this real estate over here in ways that are almost invisible to each other because it really is like we're aliens from two different planets. Like he just crushed it. So I regretted not reading that earlier. Um, and it was a really big book and it's recognizable name.
Right.
It was a really good concept that he drilled into there. So here I like none of that withstanding, here I am later on. Like I said, I was trying to write another book and I was banging my head against the wall and I kept wanting to talk about these ideas. So finally I just let myself have it. In the last couple years, since like late 2023, I got into mining my own Bitcoin because I was buying it over the counter, as it were, before. And like most people's relationship with an investment or an asset is
Right.
that like if you hold some, you get excited when the price goes up.
Right.
But actually, the opposite tends to happen once you get really into Bitcoin because you know that the price is going to go up. Like there's nowhere else for it to go because it's a hard cap with a fixed supply and like growing
So
demand,
the
and there's
more
no
you buy later on, it just keeps getting
right. So like the price will just keep going up. There's volatility. And so you get kind of bummed out when you see the number go up and you want it to go back down so you can get more of your money in there. This is so stressful that I finally started mining Bitcoin because I'm like, okay, that's actually more of like a dollar cost averaging approach because you're paying every month, you're paying an electricity bill, and that fluctuates less
yeah.
than Bitcoin, and that goes up less than Bitcoin. And so then I had to learn about mining, right? And the way that Bitcoin is actually created had been a little hazy for me before. And then it's a real education. Like once you start actually paying like $6,000 a month on just your energy cost of mining Bitcoin, then you're like, and people want to come at me with like, oh, it's just magic internet money. It's like, no, the fuck, it's not. Like, you want seriously,
Holy
dude.
God.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying. And
I've
it's
heard it takes a lot to mine just like one coin.
mhm, mhm.
And like and this isn't like, oh, I mined a coin today. Like, no, I mined a coin and it took several weeks or something.
And every 4 years, the issuance gets cut in half. So it becomes twice as hard to mine one Bitcoin every 4 years. And that's going to continue until the final halving in 2140. So we have like another 100 some years of there's a set issuance schedule that's built into the protocol of Bitcoin.
Like so many coins can be mined so many years. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because it's a $21 million, a 21 million coin hard cap. And so every 4 years, the issuance of how many Bitcoins can be mined gets cut in half until finally all done 21 million. So actually 90, almost 99% of all the Bitcoin has already been mined, but because of this infinite like titrating thing, not infinite, but this mathematical scarcity, it's like it becomes like a screw that's
Yeah.
like tightening. So it goes the opposite way of currency debasement. You take a money printer and you print more dollars, and so you're debasing the everyone's supply.
Right.
You're debasing the value of everyone's dollar when you do that. And so Bitcoin is going the other way, where it's a big screw tightening the scarcity, and it forces the value up. So anyway, so then I started learning a bunch about mining because I'm mining
Right.
now. I spend, I spend like $100,000 on my own rigs and my own equipment, and I have to figure that out. And it's profitable, but it's like a razor thin profit. But then if you hold on to that razor thin
Then
profit for, a year, 2 years, 3 years, then it doubles, triples, whatever quadruples in value because that's what Bitcoin does. So it became really interesting. And like essentially the rigs, the mining rigs themselves are just, it's called hash. Like they're just trying to solve a math problem
yeah.
like trillions and trillions and trillions of times per second all over the earth. And nobody nobody tells you you have to mine Bitcoin. Like you just decide that you want to. It's
Yeah.
totally volitional, right? So they're plugged into power, they're sucking up a lot of power, and they're just hashing, 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 hashing. Then separate from that, well, not separate, but the other aspect of Bitcoin protocol is that there are nodes. Anyone can run a node on their computer, and it's really cheap. That doesn't cost a lot of money. It's also not rewarded. It doesn't pay, nobody pays you to run a node.
Okay.
But the nodes, there's a couple 100,000 of them all over the earth from people that want to help secure the network. And the nodes like referee all of this hashing that's going on. Um, right. And so when one machine somewhere, it's kind of a lottery, it's kind of random, but also has to do with like the aggregate hash rate that was contributed. When a machine somewhere hits a block reward, which that's worth a couple $100,000 essentially for whoever is running that machine or whatever mining pool that is, all the nodes everywhere, all over the earth, like independently validate that. All the entire history of all the transactions and all the validations and all the block rewards is all on these nodes. And so they all say, yes, that happened. And now new Bitcoin is minted. So the more I the more I started kind of playing with these ideas, the more I was like, wow, that's kind of like the human DNA blockchain where freaking men are just like hashing their guts out all the time, trying to like build out civilization and like stabilize space, and like sack Carthage and defend Carthage and pack the car for road trips and like all the shit that men are doing. Like men are just like hashing, 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 hashing. Women are the ones like essentially validating their effort and labor in terms of being like, yes, I will have your baby, like, and so the final kind of part of this, and I talk about this a little bit in the book. Have you ever heard the term hypergamy?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell me. Don't ask me what it stands for because I have no idea. But I know the word.
Okay, so I didn't. I was like rapping about some ideas on YouTube. Like I was just having a little discussion with myself on YouTube. And because I'm really interested in the sort of like man woman dynamics relative to in cyberspace too, and going back to ancient times. Anyway, so this guy comes on and leaves a pretty aggravated comment, and he goes, "She won't acknowledge hypergamy." And I never heard this word in my life, dude. And so I was like, how can I acknowledge it? Like, what is that? So I look it up, and it's essentially like women standing at the finish line picking off the winners of the race, the tourney, the contest. Like men are like trying as hard as they can, to succeed in whatever
And then she
terms,
just knocks him down before he.
and women are like, okay, I'll take that one. I'll take the winner,
Wow.
which is exactly what we do. Also, but when you do that, now you're in competition with a whole lot of other women,
Right.
right? So it's this kind of contest of like how women sexually select men. And so I'm reading about it and I'm like, oh, that's basically Bitcoin mining right there, like that. Like that's what the nodes do, that's how the nodes and the rigs interact.
That's such a. It makes sense now that you put it that way.
Does, right? Like once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And it makes for a really secure blockchain, which our
Right.
our entire human race is proof of
Like
that. Like you don't want women not doing that, but it also kind of sucks for men. And it especially sucks for everyone in currency collapse and distorted incentive field, because now it's really confusing. I mean, imagine back in the day, like women are going to be the most attracted to the guy who's the best hunter, right? Let's put it that way. Like
right.
he's strong, he's brave, he's courageous, he provisions the entire tribe. And so that's going to be sexy to women. And he's probably going to be like a good genetic bet, and he's probably going to be a good provider, and he also, is a like a pillar of the group. So there's no sort of division there. But like now, if you take men and you take a currency and you unback it from energy, from value, you take men's meritocracies, because that's what men do, is they create and form meritocracies, and
Right.
you're supposed to only rise to the top if you're better than the fucking dudes below you. And you unback that from merit, which
Yep.
is
Yep.
like downstream of unbacking our currency. So then you have men sort of rising in rank who don't deserve it, you know, and it all gets kind of distorted. And so women still need to pick a good provider if they want to have a family, especially more than ever, because now, like if you want to be a mom and if you want to stay home and raise your kids, that takes a man who makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Is that man who makes the most money going to be the man who's also the best provider and a pillar of his society and the best like genetic long-term bet overall? Or is he just some dude who figured out how to like game this fucked up rigged system? So that kind of creates a split for women in hypergamy, where it's not like, so I think the proliferation of like women's smutty fiction with the like Minotaur milking farm and like all this crazy stuff that's coming out, like sex books about billionaires and surgeons and vampires and werewolves and like there is so much women's smut like right now. And I think it's because women are like kind of in this awkward situation of having to choose between what we genetically and sexually respond to
Yeah.
and what financially is viable,
It's so much thought has gone into this, and it's fascinating because I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm just like, wow, that's deep thought putting all of this together.
Well, have you noticed that the dialogue between the genders has never been more broken, and like men
Oh
have
yeah.
never been more aggravated with women, and women have never been more aggravated
Yeah.
with men. It's
Yeah.
like a complete
And you see it,
grind.
and you see it everywhere. The TV
Yeah.
shows and like all the, it's everything, and it's just like, oh my, I can't, I don't watch TV anymore because it's like all it is like, the Real Housewives of pick a fucking city. Like they're everywhere now, and then it's all toxic stuff anyway. Not downing
So
anybody out there that wants to sponsor the show. I'm just saying in general. That's my take on it. Hannah, where can those that are listening, those that watch this, we're gonna have your contact, your social media stuff in the comments and stuff below. But where can people buy the book? They're listening, they're watching this, and they're just like, I totally want to read this now.
so on Amazon, and like I said, the title's the worst part, but at the end of the day, that's like what I had to go with because that's the idea. So rigs are from Mars, nodes are from Venus on Amazon, and you can do paperback or ebook. And like I said, it's 100-page book. It's really conversational. Like reading the book is like hearing me talk because that's how I write. So I don't know if that's good news or bad news, but that's This is slightly better, like slightly more edited, but
Uh,
no, it's really conversational. It's philosophical in like a blue collar way. Let's
yeah,
just put it like that.
I love it. I love it. I've got one more question for you. And I've asked this question to you before last time you were on the show. This particular show is called The Decision Hour, and we got to make decisions every day, right? So, name a time in your life where your feet are on the line and you have to make that decision. What
I
is
feel
it,
like
and what was
I
the atmosphere like?
stressed out last time he asked me this. Uh, let's see. I'm gonna say like every freaking barbell workout. It's like facing a predator. No, I lift heavy. I've been really, really working on it
I know,
hard the
I've
last
seen it,
few
and you like,
weeks.
I'm like,
Yeah,
damn.
yeah. Like I'm not train-taining. Like I'm actively pursuing, like a body, like a strength to weight ratio that is higher than anything I've ever achieved. And the weight is literally scary. And I mean, my body's practiced at it. Like I'm not gonna hurt myself. My form is locked in, but I'm just saying it feels like facing a predator or something, like going in for a heavy squat set.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of like World War mind that happens there. And it afterwards it feels good to have kind of hosed down that peanut gallery of all, you're like, ooh, I think maybe I shouldn't do this, or I think I have something else I got to get to right now, or I should, your mind starts telling you all these things. And
yeah,
it feels really good to be like, fuck it, no, I'm doing this. It is scary. I might fail. That's fine.
right. But you're getting after it. And let me tell you something, I can vouch for Hannah on this one. She gets after it. What are your social media handles? If people want to follow you on social.
Oh, pretty much just Electric Garden, the Electric Garden. You can find me anywhere on that. Yeah.
And you have a Substack too.
Yeah. Electric Garden.
Okay. So we're going to have all of that stuff in the show notes uh, for the show. Hannah, it's always a pleasure chatting with chatting with you. Make sure you guys go check out her book. Click on the link below, or if you're watching the video, it's on the side or on top, whatever. You'll see it. It's hyperlinked. Get it. Uh, but that's all the time that we have today. Make sure you guys tune in next time. You've been listening to The Decision Hour.